Are we good? I think we're okay.
So does everybody know everybody?
Well, I think we need to introduce Michael.
Is that Mark?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mark.
Yeah, you know, it's the math. You know, Mark.
Awesome. All right. Well, while there's no Zoom bombers in the call, I'll the meeting order. So I should start by acknowledging that we're on the territories of the unceded territories of the Sashat and Chesed peoples and the Char peoples more widely, and acknowledging also that our friends on Zoom may be in other territories, so we acknowledge the territories that they are on as well. I don't think we need to do a round of introductions. I think we're all fairly familiar. We have a guest, Michael Moore, today, so that's fantastic. And that's actually our first item of business. It's Makerspace and Michael. So Michael, if you want to take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Chris, for having me down here tonight. So my name is Michael Moore. I'm with the Alberni Valley Makerspace. We are a community organization with the goal of creating a community center where people can come learn how to build, create, and innovate. Makerspaces are not an uncommon thing in most communities, and they act as a hub for creation. Our makerspace has had a bit of a journey getting to the point where we're at, and we are currently located above the 3rd Avenue Recycling. Makerspaces in a whole work for and build around the premise of giving people the skills to solve their own problems. We're not in the industry of being a computer repair shop or a office snack where you can come in and drop off your project and finish it for you. What we'll do is we'll offer you the tools and the skills to finish the project yourself, and hopefully instill a sense of accomplishment that you will want to pass on to somebody else.
Maybe you should point
Oh,
yourself.
sorry, I guess, yeah, sorry. Getting used to the transition between 2 meetings. I apologize to the people online. With that being said, our makerspace will be focusing around focusing around environmental concerns as our primary project drivers. One of those being plastics recycling. So currently in the Valley, we take all of our hard plastics recycling and transport it from here to Vancouver, to where it's either ground down and pellets are produced, or it's actually shipped off and to any countless other regions. Our goal is to take some of those hard plastics out of that supply chain and redirect them into community projects. So one of the examples I have in hand here, and for the people online, I'm going to apologize. This is a part of the joy of being in person. So what we have here is a regular sports bottle. It's nothing too uncommon for people to have. This could be a shampoo container. This could be the lid of a drywall. But the primary point of this is that this is something called HDPE, which is a high-density polyethylene plastic, and it's a recycling type 2. It's very common. Our goal is we take that plastic when it comes into the recycling depot, and we transition it into 1-inch pieces. These are shards, right? And then we take it from that point, we transition it down to a finer pellet size ourselves. Once we have this finer pellet size, we take that same plastic and we can actually injection mold it into any number of things. So this particular piece that I have in front of me here is what we consider a blend. So from here, I can make coasters. I could cut it into 6 equal squares and create a small little box out of it if I wanted to. I can create a park bench if I printed or produced enough of this. This plastic is cannot be vandalized. You can't draw on it. Doesn't stain. It's not UV resistant. It's UV resistant. And depending on where the initial product came from, it's actually food usable. It's not eating. I wouldn't microwave it necessarily, but you can use it as a cutting board and numerous other products to go with it. It's dishwasher safe, and it's unbelievably robust. So if you'd like to pass that bad boy around it. So it is an amazing product. And actually, there's quite a few companies that are already doing this kind of stuff. They're doing it in Vancouver or elsewhere. One of the bigger ones is actually located in the Midwest of the United States, and we have one back east that makes Adirondack chairs of products similar to this. On average, if we were to try to produce products in the valley, we would be able to produce and prevent, within our first year, probably about 5 or 6 full-size truckloads of that plastic leaving the valley, and we'd be able to produce products in town that people would be able to pick up. So you imagine going and drop off your plastics. You drop it off, thank you very much for your recycling. You then walk into the makerspace and you can pick up a product that was built off the stuff that you just put into the recycling facility. That means it doesn't go anywhere, right? And it's staying within our community. We're actually reaping a benefit from it, not only in jobs and job creation in manufacturing and whatnot, but we're also reducing the amount of waste that we're producing as a city. So, and that's one of our big kind of raw projects, right? Outside of that, we're also doing other things like 3D printing. So I brought some samples for 3D printing. I'm sure some of you are aware of, what options and availability are. So this is sorry, there we go. I'm talking to the microphone and showing the microphone. It's just a small helicopter. Pull it.
Whoa. Wow.
See, these are the kind of things that when we have kids involved in these kind of programs, they'll attach themselves or be interested in something just simple like this. But what it does is it brings them into the process. And then from there, they want to know more. They want to understand, why does it work like that? And how does it work? And what else can I do with it? Is really the big kind of driving factor in it.
So is that made out of recycled plastic too?
It could be. This particular one is not. But in the future, our hope is to create our own 3D filament. Unfortunately, the tolerances to create such a product are quite involved. So it would be a long-term goal, not an immediate goal. So all the plastics from projects like this, though, can be then in turn recycled into something else if we wanted to, right? So it's kind of a long-term goal, but to create 3D printer filament has to be 1.75 millimeters in diameter and an exact, and the tools and the machine to do that is something that we would aspire to be able to get to. Outside of that, we also have been doing things like small electronics projects. So here we have this is a small, a small car that follows a drawn line. It's a classic electronics project that's done in high schools and elementary schools all over the world. Unfortunately, it's not as common as I thought it was. I made one of these when I was in high school. But I took international students, and unfortunately, none of them have ever come across a project like this. Works around the idea that I can draw a thick black line on a piece of paper, place the car down, and it will use the sensors inside of it to gauge where it is on the lines. Now, part of this project is we have kids come in, or students come in, learn how to do this, learn how to build it, put it together, and then they can compete against each other on being able to complete a race. Right? You can draw a little tabletop event.
So is that made with a 3D copier too then?
No, this here is just a separate one. So this is the makerspace has, the way it's set up right now is we have an electronics lab, which includes electronics prototyping, which means fabrication or creation of products that don't normally exist in the regular consumables. We have electronics classes, which teach people how to pre-assemble or assemble projects that we've already presented to them. It teaches them basic soldering, teaches them how a circuit works, those kind of things around and in and around electronics. We have a fabrication environment, which includes 10 3D printers. Will include hopefully a laser cutter, a vacuum form machine, small scale CNC or milling type machine for allow us to mill or machine the plastics material after we've produced it. And then we'll also have a wood shop space as well, where we'll be able to work, because this plastics material works much like wood, so it's interchangeable with a wood-based material. We have an e-waste and e-recycling space within the makerspace, which allows us to take in electronics that are donated to the community or prevent those from going into the waste system, repurpose them, and then redeliver them back to the community for little to no charge. One of the grants that we've recently received from TELUS is predicated around the idea of us producing machines or computers from donated computers. So if people donate computers with us, we do a secure data deletion and destruction. We then take the parts from their computer, separate and inventory them out, and then build machines that are more than capable to run Windows 10 with a full Office suite, which both those software licenses are included. And then we're trying to encourage our grant provider with providing the end person that receives the computer with 3 months of free internet access. So that'll be our end goal, right? Because a computer is one thing, a computer is great, it's a fantastic tool. Without the internet, it's a shovel without a handle, it's you know, a car without gas, I suppose, or electricity. So in addition to those core things for the makerspace, we have a space to facilitate and hold classes and facilitate classes or talks for up to 15 to 20 people. We have a common area, so people will be able to intermingle there. We have 5 studio spaces available in it as well. These will be rented out to individuals or new businesses that want to be able to utilize the makerspace's ability to do fabrication or prototyping, or do IT support with these new businesses and give them a chance to get up and running and then become small businesses in our community. Yeah, that's about it. Anybody have any other questions?
So how are you, sorry,
No worries.
how are you collecting your plastic?
So right now we're collecting it based on word of mouth. The unfortunate part about any project like this is the capital funding costs of it all. So the Alberni Valley Makerspace is a group of individuals, myself, that are keen to make things and keen to produce a working space. We are not fundraisers or grant writers or wise in those ways. And we are struggling to learn how to do that. We're trying our best, but the reality is that without the capital funding for a space like, or capital funding for a space like this, there are very limited grants that will allow us to build the space. So we've been building the space out of pocket. Plastics, the recycling, or the 3D printers, those are purchases by our members, and plastics brought in by our members or associates to do proof of concept and to basically show what we can do. Currently the space, yes.
When we talk about grant writing, I come from experience. You typically need to be a nonprofit. So
Yes.
are you asking to partner with Transition Town to help you?
So we are a nonprofit. We are,
You already
yeah,
are a
we are a nonprofit
so
society.
nonprofits can apply for grants. So
Absolutely, and that's how we got our TELUS grant. We've acquired a TELUS grant to do an e-waste recycling project which allows us, the TELUS grant covers purchases of software licenses, purchases of 3 months of internet access, hopefully. Basic tools to take the computer apart, some facilitation and administrative costs to host classes to do this, but it will not allow me to buy a sheet of drywall or pay for a building inspection and or code review and that kind of stuff.
So John was asking about where he's sourcing the plastic?
Yes.
So are you
So our-
partnering with regional district or with the city?
We currently have a memorandum of understanding with the ACRD for the recycling depot, and we collect our plastics at the 3rd Avenue Recycling Depot drop-off location. And when you've gone there in the past, you have to sort out your different materials. This would be just another bin that would be sorted into. And you'd be able to, your shampoo bottle would be a prime example, milk jugs, milk jug caps. Those are the kind of things that would go into that facility or that bin.
So what do you see the role of transition towns being?
Partnership. So our goal is to help other societies. So I'm not here with hat in hand. We're slowly seeing capital costs. I'm looking for administrative mentorship, guidance, those kind of things. Every society, every group in Port Alberni has their own economic challenges. We wouldn't need these kind of groups if we didn't have problems. We're not looking to add to anybody's burden or to add to anybody's issue. Now, if you guys are in a position to partner monetarily, by all means, we would love it, but it's not my entire goal. I'm a really bad businessman. It's probably something I should work on. But the reality is that ACRD is helping us fund the electrical for the cities. Thank you very much. I'm working with the city of Port Alberni and trying to find alternatives for funding for the entrepreneurship portion. So the city can capitalize on having innovation and entrepreneurship space. We can provide that. Perhaps we can get some capital funding to help build out that space. It's safe, make it up to code. And that's the direction we're going. For us, long term, we would love to see groups like Transition Town sponsor an event or sponsor a program, right? Plastics recycling program or e-waste recycling program or some other initiative that aligns with your guys' goals, right? And that's, for us, that's where we see the most value with what we can offer, right? We're that facilitation space that we could offer a specific program that meets your guys'. Sorry, I have to take my glasses off or they steam up. So, Char, is there anybody up on there asking questions online?
Well, it's just Gail there.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Gail and Carl, or
Sorry, I wasn't sure. I can't actually see who's on there. So. It's a problem everybody deals with, I'm sure. So I have children at home, and I love them dearly. I have my own. I take international students in, but they're filthy individuals. So this is not going to leave my world for quite a while. Yeah, I have some. I know this is. I was making this joke earlier. I don't normally print material. I feel that we've hit a digital age in the world, but I don't actually have this online. So these are. I will get a copy of this so that it can be shared electronically with the group.
yeah, just shoot it to us.
There we go. It's just a kind of a little bifold there. Okay. Yeah, it just kind of speaks to the. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I'll watch for it online. Yeah.
There we go.
And I'll print it and put it on my phone.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of speaks to more to the recycling projects that we have in mind, and some things that may fall into alignment with what you guys. Up to you. At any point, my email is on, I will include both the bifold, and I'll provide it again to post online. If anybody ever wants to come by, right now we're not open to the public. We are still in the construction phase. We started leasing the space above the 3rd Avenue Recycling Depot 6 months before COVID started. Some would say it already started 6 months before we got notification. When we started renting the space, it did not have a bathroom, and it did not have power. Things that we didn't realize when we were so lucky to get it. And 6 months later, we finally got power. We were just getting ready to put a bathroom in, and while the world shut down. So about a year and a half later, we got a bathroom. And we are now in a position where we've gotten drywall or some drywall, and we're finishing our electrical portion of it, and we're going to finish the drywall and closing up the space. And then we're going to have a wonderful open house. Because this is all going to be over, we're going to have wonderful open houses again, and it will be a social event.
Well, John Mayba introduced me to recycling plastic maybe 10 years ago, huh? He did a presentation here. Recycling everything. It's got the symbol on the bottom of each item, and you're quite passionate about it, very knowledgeable about it. So it's a good resource for you.
That'd be fantastic.
I'm amazed at how dense that material is. How do you, like, you actually have, did you make that? With like, it's cool.
So with this, the way it works out for this particular piece of product is that it is heated to just under 300 degrees Fahrenheit, 180-ish Celsius. Somebody can correct me for my math online, I apologize. And once it hits that temperature, it doesn't quite melt, but it becomes extremely pliable. So best way to put it. And then from there, you can either through screw extrusion, which is feeding it into a screw, and through high pressure, we'll extrude it out. This particular piece was done through a flat press or a hydraulic press. So we lay the material out into a form, press down, into the flesh. Our end goal is to create things like 2x4s or 2x6s that could be utilized in things like park benches. And then those park benches could be, I mean, minus the black flecks in this. You can't see this, I apologize, but where are we going here? Sorry. Here. There we go. There we go. That's the color of the material. It's hard to see there. There's black flecks in there. I didn't like that. So we can change the color, this pattern that's in here. This is because we were too eager. But if we had taken it and mixed it a little bit more, we would have got a more uniform pattern. So there's a lot of customization to it. And this comes from.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. The additional concerns that are often raised around a product like this are things like VOC or the creation of the microplastics or plastic waste from the process. So the off-gassing is combated through respiratory and vented environment. So makerspace would have those things already in place. And then as far as the microplastics or the plastics produced from milling and machining product, they're just simply taken and put back into the process. And then it just continues on and perpetuates itself. Cool.
Well, that's really great. Thank you.
Thank you
so much for
presenting
it. Yeah.
It's a place everybody's going to come, right? The makerspace is kind of one of those places where everybody's going to go at least once. Our general program goal is to create a space that is set up like a gym membership for a month. So our goal is to have a $30 a month membership fee, and then it's unlimited usage of the space. with that kind of fee. And the way I see it is that it's a lot more reasonably priced than, say, gym membership is like $39 now, I believe. Membership to our newest esthetician in town, I believe, is $39 a month. So we're trying to keep it reasonably priced. And of course, for community members that don't have the financial means in which to do a $30 a month fee, we're going to have lots of alternatives. Once again, we can have corporate sponsors buy bundles or packages, and then it allows it for other people. Cool.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
There's been some mention of creating a repair center in town.
Yes.
Would that be something that you would entertain? Like, say, I'll give you an example. I've got a bread machine
Yes.
that something went inside. I think it's something simple like a belt, but I can't get into it because they've got these crazy screws that nobody has the right screwdriver.
Absolutely.
But if somebody would know how to fix that, like that's just an example, or maybe it's a toaster, or maybe somebody's dishwasher, or
Our goal is we have several members on our team and our staff that would love to work with you on helping you repair that. Does that kind of roundabout software development sort of way answer the question? Our goal is to help people achieve what they want to get done, right? So if you have a bread maker, say, prime example, and it's got torque screws, you can't get it. You don't know anything about electronics. I'm just continuing down this hypothesis. You don't know anything about electronics. You don't really want to learn about how the internals of a bread maker work, but we're there to help you open the bread maker up, to help us help you learn how to put it back together. We are not necessarily a hands-off repair center. You don't come in, drop off a piece of equipment, go, hey, I'm going to see you in a few days, and then leave. Now, that being said, doesn't mean you can't find somebody in our space that won't do that job for you. And we would have businesses, small handymen, small electronics handymen that don't necessarily want to have a big storefront, right? And they may want to use our space to do that kind of business out of. That's exactly
more
it.
like what I was thinking.
Exactly, but that's the thing. Like the makerspace wouldn't necessarily take that role on, but we would definitely help you connect with somebody who had those skills.
Well, and that's what makes it make sense for something like transition town to be involved. It's about building the community's abilities as a whole.
We rate ourselves, or we list ourselves as an education center. So I am working to partner with SC7 as to act as that science world field trip, right? For all the kids in the Alberni Valley, come down to the makerspace. We'll run a 2 or 3 day project. I'm currently doing a project with Packer and helping them build tabletop gaming systems and do the 3D print the figures and 3D print the train. We're going to go through the process of the build, the design of those characters, and then through to the completion of actually producing.
Well, I think
Sorry, I can nerd out about this all night long. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. And to everyone online, I apologize. And Char was nice enough to move the camera so it at least looked at me because I wasn't moving enough. I apologize. Yeah.
great. Well,
Thank you very much, guys. Speaking of which, I've gotten 3 phone calls from the makerspace going, where are you?
Well, absolutely. Thank you again.
No worries. My pleasure.
Yeah.
I wish I had been more prepared. I have keychains for everybody. I feel like giving keychains away is almost worse than giving the physical pamphlets away. So,
Awesome.
thank you very much for having me, guys. This is my first favorite. I know the tail is so realistic.
I know.
Oh,
All right. So we'll move on to
Sorry.
more business as we go.
Well,
I have in our unfinished business and current topics. And I should ask actually before I continue, does anybody want to add anything to the agenda?
I was hoping you'd added the things we talked about.
In the, yeah, it's in the,
And I'd also like to mention the Edna Cox.
the way, sorry.
The Edna Cox version.
Oh, yes. Anything else? Young Union? Just for any business for.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, and I
We'll be
I
in
feel
touch.
bad, this is the first time I've been to one of your meetings.
All good. You're always welcome.
Yes, thank you very much, guys. You have a wonderful evening.
Right on. Thanks, Michael. Okay, so my next up here is an update on the city OCP process. I just want to put it at the top so that people were aware that it's ongoing. And I believe the Alberni Climate Action Group is, what I remember, was it April 9th? 6th?
Sorry, what is that?
April 6th,
No, the Alberni what?
Alberni Climate Action.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry. It's hard to hear. Can I take this off? Just so everybody's aware of the OCP process, I think went really well as far as that meeting. John and Dan and I and Anna and Jim there. Yeah, it was really good. He was the facilitator was very open and seemed as though he knew the answers, or he knew things that we were going to ask before we asked him. So he was very open. He knows what's going on. So I thought that was really good. Anyone else have any thoughts about that day?
Yeah, no, he sounded really good. If he does what he says he's going to do, then I think we'll probably get a pretty good report.
Yeah. Okay. See you Saturday.
Oh, okay, thank you. Nice people down there.
Yeah, you can take off your mask while seated, of course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, just mask until seated at Char. It's mask until seated.
Until seated.
Yeah, yeah, I kept that same policy.
Okay.
But if you're standing, why don't you just sit?
Okay.
There's no. Yeah. Just sit.
I got halfway here, I was walking and I realized I didn't bring a mask. And I think it speaks to some of the transition we're undergoing and some of the confusion that may be out there. But anyway, I'm pleased to announce that that CD Saturday will be taking place on Saturday, this coming Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we've got about a dozen vendors lined up focusing on seeds. We're not competing with the farmers markets. We expect between 200 and 400 people to file through the day. We've streamlined the event this year. So if you want a coffee, bring it with you because we won't be serving coffee. We won't have music. We don't want people to congregate, but we do want to have everyone to have an enjoyable and safe experience. So we'll celebrating the spring, which is of course beginning the next day. I'm here to answer any questions you may have and to clarify the bike valet, which I understand you're taking care of. We only need bike valet 0.5, that is half of the structure. Will fit nicely into the space. I don't think we're going to see a lot of people cycling to the event. We're just back on the agenda, on the calendar. Mike Valley is new, it's early in the year, so I think it's important perhaps to have it there, to have a presence, to send a message. Certainly, in my experience, there's nothing quite as pleasant as pushing the bicycle through the marketplace, purchasing items as you go. So we want to encourage that. Yeah. Thank you for doing that. Take it. Char, always take the break in the morning. That is at 8 a.m.
Yeah,
Perhaps I
so-
should be speaking directly with that person.
So that's the part that
I'll be really
Well, it depends on the setup time, see, because the gates open at 10. Our vendors start arriving at 8. But if you think you can set it up in 10 minutes,
Well, the actual setup is not take very long because will for
right?
create a kind of fun after the the connector. Yeah, and it is. Right. Now, as far as the actual bike rack itself, do you want to spin that or do you just want to just have the enclosure?
The bike rack alone might be sufficient. If they can lock their bikes to the bike rack.
But it's just a bar with two triangular pieces on the end, and we can either bring the whole thing, which is 18 feet, or we can just bring the 9-foot piece.
Just a 9-foot would be sufficient. Yeah, we may only get 2 or 3 cycles. I don't know.
Okay, so I'll just bring the bike rack itself
Okay.
rather than the whole enclosure,
Okay.
and then that won't take up the very much space.
Okay.
Yeah, with all it is just a bar,
Yes.
and then 2 triangular pieces, and there's a thing on the top of the triangular pieces that the bar slides in, you just get to it, so it
Okay.
doesn't slide around. And then you just have the bike. Depending on how tall the bikes are, you could just back the bike in and hook the seat over the bar,
Mhm.
or you could just lean it up again, whichever.
Okay. Okay. And we're thinking it could fit nicely in this recessed area. Back of the
Okay,
building.
yeah.
And we can direct people there if they bring their bikes.
Okay.
And if it only takes 20 minutes for setup.
Well, if I'm just bringing the bar, that's probably maybe 5-10 minutes.
Okay. Okay. But if it can be in by 9:30, because we always get to early.
Oh, yeah.
And then the
yeah.
biggest thing too is just to make sure there's someone
Yeah, watch them.
to watch. Yeah, to watch.
You have to have somebody on hand, unless somebody's got a lock. And then,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, we will have people back there directing traffic. And I think we'll have a volunteer throughout for the duration to watch over that area.
Don't know anybody in town with cycles with a lock nowadays.
No, I was gonna say,
You can't do better on this house.
yeah, if you want to keep your bike. Yeah, but yeah, we'll have people back. We have about a dozen volunteers, including Mark. And we've got to kind of orchestrate the arrivals and departures carefully, so we don't have overcrowding. But it's the idea, as I say, is to have a pared down event this year and then build it gradually over the years. But just to return to the calendar and celebrate spring. It's going to be, by the sounds of it, a very spring-like day, possibly showers, but everybody's going to be under canopies. So, except some people who arrive without umbrellas.
No, that's great. It'll be nice to have it happen again.
Yes, well, it is the first public event, and
Yeah.
Teresa and I attended the Duncan variety TV Saturday last weekend, and it was the first day after they lifted the mask requirements. So and they had the climate action parade went down the 8N railway right in the middle of it,
Oh, great.
and it was a great occasion. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that's great. Hopefully, it all goes off without hitch.
Okay, thanks for your support.
Cool.
And put the emphasis on that with Char.
Okay, so moving right along, we'll go into groups. Education and networking, to movies and things.
Well, I haven't heard anything well lately.
Okay,
My assumption is that we're going to show first week.
yeah,
April 16th,
20th, I think,
20th, okay. And
is our next.
following month, Thomas request.
Okay, so I've had some correspondence with the people that are handling this film. And what they're trying to do is organize a tour on Vancouver Island the last couple of weeks of April. So is there any chance that we could ask them to bring Pratt piece to our April meeting? Or is this other one?
Well, we've already committed.
I wonder if, how would you feel about setting a special date for this one? I mean, you know, because if we can't do it at our Wednesday meeting, then we could.
Well, it could be a weekend thing or something. Like, do you know when they're going to come through?
Well, they're still planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they want to do it about 6 communities on the island, and it sounds like, you know, the last part of April.
Yeah,
I mean, I could talk to her and see if we could wait until May to produce, you know, but if they're going to be doing it.
yeah, we can always do another event. Maybe.
I don't know exactly how this, I'm not sure, I should go back to my emails, whether it's the Sierra Club. Did you notice that? Yeah, but whoever it is, they've got funding to help us advertise and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Well, then maybe it would be good to have it as a separate
yeah,
event type thing.
we could,
Yeah.
we could do it here. So how are you for public events? Can you actually have a group of people and show a film in here?
Yeah, I still have to check double backs until April 8th. So have it after April 8th would be much easier. And I personally prefer that people wear masks. I feel uncomfortable having groups of strangers without, you know, so personally, I prefer we wear masks until we sit down for a while. But yes, I can have numbers too. Yeah, you can set up the chairs and yeah, it all has to do with the venue's comfort levels.
Yeah, okay. So should I try to get more information and then
Yeah.
maybe we can
that'd be
deal
good.
with it by email?
Shall you get the transitions mailings?
I do.
So if you circulate it via the list, okay, that
Well, if you want to book the venue directly, then send it to me directly.
right.
But if it's something on your existing dates, then by all means.
Yeah, so if we go to book a separate date, and I'll have to talk to you and find out.
Yeah,
when
pick up
you're-
the phone
when
and
you're
call
free.
me, yeah. Yeah, that's the best way, but absolutely, yeah, my pleasure.
Awesome.
But I haven't got confirmation about the film for next, but you're going to send me something?
Well, I'm still waiting for Val.
And do you have Val's contact information?
I have email.
You have, yeah.
But not with it.
So when do you think you could find out? Sure.
Well, you can-
Well, if you know by tomorrow, I mean, maybe if we can't get that one for April, then we'll just have this other one, maybe if we can schedule it.
Yeah.
Then you said that ACA had seen the film? You're right over there.
Were you talking to Dan?
I'm talking to you.
Here.
Could you repeat the question? I have trouble hearing you and John. Could you just repeat what you need from me?
Yeah, I'm just,
Turn it again.
Yep.
Just have to speak up.
okay, did I not see in the ACA correspondence that some of you had seen First We Eat?
Yes, several of us have seen it.
And so did Val say anything about, the further commitment to show it on a transitions meeting?
She's still keen to have it happen for sure. I'm not sure why she didn't come tonight. I know she has company, that's probably why. But she's still keen. I should warn you though, it's an hour and 40 minutes long, so it's not a short movie.
Right. Well, we still have to iron out the details anyway. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, so we'll iron out those details, but figure that all out. Okay, so moving along, food group. So we'll start with Edna.
Oh,
Yes. Do that.
so the Edna Cox Social Justice Bursary is underway. We've had about $500 pledged so far. Basically, it won't be, we're sort of too late on it to have it awarded this year. But basically what will happen is once it's fully registered with the school board, then anybody who, we could publicize it, and anybody who wishes to donate to it can just send the money to the school board, but they'd have to indicate that specifically that it was for that purpose. And then they would just let us know how much money they'd received. And then I think they give you, usually they give you 2 or 3 names of eligible candidates. And then on the basis of that, they get shortlisted. So any donation over $25 gets a tax receipt. So that's what it was, just easier to run it that through the school district because they have that ability to do that.
Well, that's really great.
So Janice, is there any kind of target amount that you're looking for?
I personally would like to see it about $800 or a bit more, but at that amount, yeah. I don't think that's, no, I think it's quite doable, especially if we have a fair amount of lead time now.
Are you looking at this as being an ongoing thing?
Yes, and in which case, then perhaps we could state exactly how much we want it to be, and then anything over and above that would be put aside for the following year.
Great. Anything more?
On that particular issue, no.
Okay. So I'll just mention that I was contacted by Island Health this week for the contract for next year. So so I signed that back. So that should be all good. And contacted by Jeanette, the president of the strategic plan. I did put a link. I updated the link on the agenda to the strategic plan. Is that okay if it's up there?
Oh, I think so.
Awesome. Okay. So I put a link to it on the website. So if you want to see it, it's there. It's really good. I read through it today. So it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been commissioned to come and request a few things, but one in particular is to try to get a credit card. And Rob and I have been texting a bit back and forth today, and then Robert informed me that Abbeyfield also had the same issue with the credit union. And in the end, they were able to get a credit card. And so I spoke to Marjorie Jared, and she said, you have to give a limit on it, which I would suggest would be about $200 $2,000. You designate who has the cards, this group would, and there's a choice of 4 different types of cards, and the signers for this organization would have to sign to say that it was acceptable. And she said she would get back to me with the names of the business manager at the credit union. Basically, it's out of Nanaimo that would help set it up. And part of the, I guess there is a sort of a sense that the food group is sort of pushing for a little more financial autonomy, but the key driver for it right now is that we have just received $19,200 grant, which is essentially a continuation of the Food RX program, in which nurses at West Coast General identify people, usually women, who are in hospital who could benefit from local food boxes. And that's what the funds are spent for. And Anna did that last year, and she would do this again, and she would go around to the various local places to get the food and so on to put into the boxes. And I think the feeling is that a credit card makes it would make the job a lot easier for the treasurer rather than, and for her as well, in terms of doing it. She can just go out and make the payments to the various numbers of different places, the local farmers and so on that she has to go to. Anyway, that's the issue, and it appears that it is doable if you agree to it.
Yeah, I think, the Food RX program was really successful. It'd be good to get it going again. I guess the only sticking point that I can think of, like, when we're talking for transition towns, is in our constitution it has a thing about debt. Is that right, Dan?
It does.
So that's, I think, our only sticking point. Now, if we were committed to ensuring that the balance was cleared every month, that's sufficient for that to be something.
Well, the other possibility is to have a debit card rather than a credit card.
Right.
Unfortunately, that you really can't get from the credit union for
Is that right?
a society.
Yeah. they
That
don't-
is worse. That's-
So you can spend money that maybe you don't have, but you can't spend money that you
They
do
do
have.
that.
Why am I getting the catch-22 vibe? Okay, so then I'll shut up about that.
So may I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Right now, I hope that we don't have anybody coming. If we reload about the card, simply you pay upfront how much you want on that card. And then once that amount is gone, it's gone, but you've already paid for it. So it's not
Yes.
like you're going to have a bill at the end of the month. I think. So if we did prepaid Visa card last year for stuff like that, $50. If the food group is okay with it, do you want me to find out about reloadable Visa card?
How did it work? Because I've never ever looked at those things, but somebody said that it was, the charges for it were really quite.
Well, there's a charge for it. Like there's a charge for it, and I think there's a monthly fee. Now, right now, like I say, we don't have any right now because they phased out Visa. I think they're bringing in MasterCard, which haven't gotten yet. So I can find out some information on that. Email it to you, and then you can take that to the food group and see how they feel. They can either do a reloadable Visa card, or they can do a gift card, Visa gift card, and you can get them, the card. And that would not necessarily be the loophole, but at least it
Yeah.
doesn't violate our constitution.
I just wonder if, because I know I had a little Visa card, another credit union was. And it was reasonably easy to reload, but it wasn't what I would call user friendly. It was all done online. Yeah, it wasn't.
With the reloadable Visa card that we have, you come into the post office and say you want X amount of money, like put on card, and we just scan it, and then put in how much you want, and it's usually a $3.95 fee. Just say you want to pay that up, so you want to include it with the amount, and then say yes, that you pay cash with debit. And then, take a minute or two for the card to load up, and then we give you the little receipt, and away you go.
Dan, can you just explain to me what the Constitution or the policy is around debt? Like what constitutes debt? In terms of-
The organization is not supposed to incur any obligations, any financial obligations.
That's sort of what it states.
I think it just says that we're not going to have any debts. But I think the intent clearly was that we were not going to borrow a bunch of money to do things.
Right, but we have the money to do this.
Right.
So, I mean, the other thing is that, in fact, a credit card is online, and Rob felt so moved, he could go on and pay it twice a month even, see what was on there, and, so it, as I say, the funds are there, the funds are in the program. So it's not as if we're incurring a debt, it's,
So what the bylaw says, I have this from 2011. It says the society will neither borrow nor otherwise incur debt. So I think that's, I think, it prevents us from doing something like a mortgage. I don't think it necessarily, as far as credit cards, unless we had that and paying interest on it for a period of time.
You want to make sure if we're going to comply with that provision of the Constitution,
It has to be.
that there is no overdraft.
Yeah.
And that when that money is spent, that the card becomes invalid.
well, if you had a card that had a $2,000 limit on it, that limit would remain until it was, it's sort of not finite. So I say it means that, I never ever pay interest on my credit card. I pay it before the end of the month. I think, most of us do. So I think that would be, the same thing there. There would be no interest accrued or to the bank. And just a way to make this project a lot easier. I mean, I just find that somehow or other the loading, I mean, if that's all that people are prepared to do is sort of go with a preloaded one, then I would want it to be loaded to at least $1,000, and $1,000 would be coming from that food program and that particular grant. And then there has to be a way to reload it if it's used.
Yeah, I do think
Because the vast majority of this grant is used for purchasing food.
Well,
Is most of the food purchased from farmers, or is it purchased from like Walmart or Milk Grills or?
I don't know all of the places, but certainly I know that St. James Cannery was one of them, that there's, you know, just, you would know that better, Rob, what different places were used last year for.
There's like I'm part of the Grassroots Homeless Coalition, and we used to have crossing the Friendship Center, there's a warming trailer set up. And at nighttime, we'd be there with propane, and those fire pits, they use a lot of propane. And we were going out and getting them all the time, and then submitting the bill, and then 3 weeks later, we get, oh, here's your check for the propane. So we decided that, you know what, that was rather inconvenient. So co-op happened to donate $1,000 to that group, and they gave 10 $100 gift cards. And so I was given one of the gift cards. I go over to the co-op, I refill up the 4 tanks. It's $120. So I pay $20 in cash, and I go and I give the receipt, and I get the $20 back, and there's a $100 gift card, and they give me another $100 gift card, and that seemed to work better. I still ended up having to invoice the $20, but it was so much easier than having. That's why I was asking, is it specific stores? Because going and getting a Walmart gift card doesn't cost you. Getting a Visa gift card that is usable anywhere is going to cost you money everywhere. Like,
Yeah, most of the places that they got the food got from are local.
Right.
So they don't have their own. I mean, they have their certificate,
Right.
which I know healthcare does and probably the food does. The two guys don't know because we never asked them. But I think what you're getting at is that you want a code that somebody can be given
Right.
to go to wherever. And say, I need this, I need this, I need this. Learn it, where you go. And then they all come to somebody, me. That's a case.
Right.
That
You
is.
just put the money back in the account, right? So you
Right.
can get like a Visa or MasterCard.
That's what you're asking for.
Yes, I guess so. I mean, I would say, you know quite well about that program before, and there were, and I know that he was buying for quite a different variety of
Yeah.
sources.
But this is what Anna has recommended.
Well, I know that she, for a while, she was just using her own credit card to do it, and then having that reimbursed or something like that.
yeah, no, I think it makes more sense for the organization to have something that can be used to facilitate purchases like that. So my feeling is that, if we're comfortable with the person who has the card, if it's Anna or whoever, to be able to use it responsibly and then be able to submit the whatever invoices or whatever the proof to be able to make sure that it's paid off in a month, then I'm comfortable doing that. If the food group feels that that's something that they need in order to sort of to make the food RX program go more efficiently, and we can manage it as an organization, then I think we should do that. But it's a decision for all of us to make. So how should we do this? Should we do a motion, or we can do a consensus, or what? Jim or Gail, do you have any thoughts?
I don't personally know enough about this yet, Chris, I don't think I should vote on it because they don't know enough about it yet. Does that make sense?
Could I suggest that since this is the food groups money and the food group's potential credit card, that we trust the food group to do the right thing.
That's fine.
Well, I assume though that the transition town would be ultimately responsible for any, if any deaths happen. So, I mean, that doesn't seem, I mean, it's probably fine with considering who's involved, but it probably isn't, it's probably a risky thing to do in general.
Well, I think that at any time that it appears that there's trouble brewing, that our treasurer should be able to phone up the credit union and cancel the credit card. Because that then would be a form of fraud.
And I think I don't see any eventuality that, with the people that we know that are all involved, I don't see that as likely in the least. So I think, I agree. I think if the food group has, kind of as our structure of our society is as unwieldy as it is, the food group has a level of autonomy to it. And if we as the larger board are comfortable with that autonomy, then I think that can extend to using credit card to access funds that are available to them. And obviously, we as a board and the society as a whole has the responsibility to ensure that the money goes in and the money goes out in a proper way. But in the end, I think we're all on the same page. So that it could be.
So how would it be if, so we get a credit card with Transition Town's name on it. We let the food group use it for this project. When the project is finished, goes back to the treasurer. Next time they have another project, go and get the credit card. It's agreed upon, how much it's going to be used for. So it's something that would be used on an ongoing basis, but each time it's used, it's got to be reviewed and, everything's got to be in place as to what it's being used for.
Yeah, I think
Does that
it
make
would be
sense?
really important for us to be clear about when it's being used, maybe on a group basis. Say if it was a food group now, it depends on how the credit union deals with the name, right? So if it's a transition counts card, that becomes something that the food group could use, cycle Alberni or whoever, but I think we would have to be really clear about it being used in a limited, or not a limited way, but in a compartmentalized way, so we know, it's being used by the food group for a project, and then be used by others. So we don't want to open the can of worms. On the other side of it, I don't know if the credit union would want it to be Alberni Valley Transition Counts card or a card with someone's name on it. The person.
Well, it seemed to me when we talked about it before, they were like, you can't have one because you're not.
Yeah. So does it have to have someone's name on it then?
I think that was probably the second one, because the board of, somebody has to take responsibility for that card. So it almost sounded like they wanted somebody's name to be on it. I'm not certainly crazy like somebody's name being on it, but if that's the one way we can do it, then I guess that's the way we're gonna have to do it.
Well, and if it has to be someone's name on it, then it has to be the person who's going to be using it. You can't use a credit card. It's not.
But I do know that the school board has staff credit card, and it does say school district does on it. And anybody that's authorized, and I'm sure there must be somewhere in a computer that, only you people can use it. For patent, anybody can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a purchase card, a Visa card from VIU that has my name on it. So I would assume it would be something similar to that.
The one can go over to having anybody's name on them. It's just go over FD 70 or whatever. I think the superintendent probably found small. I'll have to come back. By only certain authorized people can have them. And I'm assuming that they probably have credit limit on credit card. So that, somebody's not gonna go to Vegas for a weekend.
Well, and so I think we should be clear then about a limit. So you suggested a $2,000 limit, and I think that makes sense. So it becomes a question of what the credit union, kind of how it works for them.
And how long it's gonna take them.
Yeah, I would suggest if you haven't dealt with them much before, to be direct
Now,
and engaged with them. that they do
there's a
tend-
potential problem here, like,
Yeah,
I mean, I hate to take up all this time, but,
no, it's
you put a $2,000 limit. Okay, it's May 1st, Anna goes out, she starts shopping. She spends $2,000 in the first week. She's still got a whole bunch, she's got $19,000 to spend. How is this gonna work?
Well, I would
She
think at
submit-
that point, she calls up Rob
She submits the bills,
Yeah.
they settle the bills.
So then he pays it right
and
out.
pays
right.
it down to zero again.
Okay, so that would work.
Yeah.
No
For
problem.
me, it's a good idea because I know in some groups, for me to pull $500 out of my pocket, I can put that on my Visa and I can take care of that. But for some members, pulling $500 out of their pocket and having to wait a month
Yeah.
to go to the next meeting to get reimbursed, that can cause a little bit of hardship for some people. Or like you said, they pay the interest on it. And to me, if you can remove that burden from everybody, whether they can afford it or not, I think you're gonna have happier volunteers when they're not having to dig into their own pocket. I think everybody here has probably been on board where they fronted money and then lost the receipt. And it's like, oh, well, I guess it's a donation to the cause. Where if you actually, if you're just putting in your time, it's one thing, but when it's actually costing you to be a member, sometimes it can drag you out and you sit there and say, it's not really. So I would definitely be in favor of whatever it takes to do that. Because I've been in a situation where, it's not good when you sit there and say, oh, just pick it up and just bring it to the thing and we'll reimburse you. And then you realize that person doesn't have the means to buy that $100 worth of materials to bring to the event. So I think the idea of having a prepaid card, even if
I like you said, I think it enables us to be able to do things without that burden.
So can we recommend that the food group and the treasurer proceed?
With a credit card,
Yes,
of a limit of $2,000.
yes.
Is there any objection to that?
Good. So, yes, okay, and I will get those names from Marjorie about how you go with the people who will facilitate it instead of setting up a wall to do this at credit union. And, and then once it's in place, I guess you are the two signers for the organization, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay,
Just let me know.
okay, good.
Okay, awesome.
That was all.
Susan Roth.
Oh, yeah, Susan. So Jeanette asked me a couple months And it's related to the report, the strategic plan that she wrote. And one of the goals around it was was capacity building, and amongst that was getting a handle on finances of the group and being able to present it in ways that are suitable for granting organizations. So I reached out to Susan Rock, who I know from ACOS. She's the finance person there. She's really good, and she offered to volunteer her time to do that if the food group needs them to. And it did cross my mind as well. And I talked to Jeanette about it and Susan, that I think the food group is the main. Certainly, that's where all of the funding is going. There's a lot of moving parts there that'll benefit from perhaps from that added resource, but the organization as a whole as well. So Susan is open to that. So she's a resource that we can call if the food group especially.
I taught all 3 of her kids.
Sorry.
I taught all 3 of her kids.
Oh, Susan. Yeah. Okay. Cycle Alberni.
Okay, so we had a winter week of cycling, and I actually, I'm not sure how many people really time to look, but around the province they had. Did you see that email?
It was
20 some thousand people registered for cycling in the winter. So, you know, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it turned out really well. We got the report from them last week, and it was far above what we would have expected from the initial plan.
Okay, so then the other thing I wanted to report is that there's this group called the BC Cycling Coalition in the province, and they had a donation, and it was supposed to be used to further the cause of cycling in smaller communities, and so we put in an application for a grant, and we got $1,810, and what we're looking at doing, I think maybe most of you are aware that we've got this cycling education program through the elementary schools. And so I talked to Candace and I said, well, what could we do with some money if we apply for this grant? So we came up with this idea that we want to try to enlist grade 11 students to come out and help with this program. And the high school has this requirement that I'm pretty sure it's just the grade 11s, that they do 30 hours of community work. But there's a clause in there that says they can actually be paid for doing that, and they call it work explorations or some kind of exploration. I can't remember what it is, but I think it's work explorations. Anyway, so they can get paid for 30 hours, which is probably more than what we need. And so we've got an advertising campaign going on at the high school, and we're hoping to enlist a number of students, and they would get paid for coming out and first of all being trained. We've got a professional trainer from Duncan that has come up on occasion to help us with programming, and so these kids would be trained, and then they go out and help Candace with the student education program. And then there's also some possibility to do some summer workshops with kids. Take them out and, you know, maybe a mountain biking course or, you know, whatever seems like would be good. But anyway, I presented this to the granting committee and they were quite enthused about it, so they gave us the money. So anyway, we're hopeful that we're going to get some kids come out and say, yeah, we'd like to be paid, you know, to go out and ride our bikes around town with the kids. So anyway, that we'll see how that goes.
You're aware that the minimum wage just went up.
Yep. Oh well, we're actually talking about paying even more than that.
Yeah.
We want to make it worth their while. And then the other thing, of course, is that in the end of May there'll be the regular Go by Bike Week, which we did put a grant application in for that as well. So hopefully we'll get.
Great. Moving right along, ocean friendly TA. Anything from that crew? Maybe Jim or Gail?
Yes, we are going to share a table at, can you hear me properly?
Yep.
Okay, at CD Saturday, we have the Community Climate Circle table. Thank you, Mike. And we'll be sharing that with the Nature Club and Ocean Friendly Port Alberni. We'll have a sign-up sheet there for people that might be interested in helping with cleanups on the estuary and throughout town. And Jim, is there anything else we should add?
Well, we are planning a cleanup of the estuary on the 26th of April.
26th.
April.
No, it's the 23rd of April.
Thank you.
You were close. Yeah, but there's talk, Rob Dickinson, the city engineer, is going to join us on that because they'll still be doing work out there and he wants to make sure that nobody interferes with anything and everybody's safe. So we had talked about limiting the numbers of people that are going to help on that estuary cleanup. I believe Rob is going to deal with the debris through the city. I think that was validated by Rob. Yeah. So that's where we're at right now.
That's great. Okay. Anyone have any questions about that? Okay. Watershed, Vancouver Island Water Watch Coalition, nothing to report as they have not had a meeting recently. Somas River Estuary Group, I'll just mention quickly that we had a nice walk a couple Saturdays ago down at the Somas Mill on Harbor Road there for a couple hours. Had a nice chat about it, and I did a presentation for the Alberni Valley Nature Club, and it was well received there. So that's sort of moving along as it goes. More people are becoming aware, so that's cool. Just for time, I think I'll skip over the affiliated groups and say there are finances, and they were provided by Rob. Thank you. In email, and they are available on the website. So
And I do have to add a quick thing to
Sure.
the finances. As of today, I had put the 7,500 in an account for the food
Okay.
hub. So that money for the food hub we have to add another 7,500 to it. So next month the total will reflect that.
Okay, that's very fast.
That is fast.
Because I just signed it yesterday, so that's yeah. They obviously needed to do that before year end.
Well, I think what happened is,
That's from last
have
week, right?
before and complaining about how long it took them to get money. And I think maybe some of the larger group have said if you can't cough up the money fast, we're out. And I think I don't know how we went. They get on it.
That's good.
And they did.
That's amazing. That's the fastest I've ever heard of government moving.
It could take us a year.
That's interesting. Okay, and that is the last thing on our agenda. So is there anything else anyone would like to mention before we?
Yeah.
Oh, Gail, go.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that we've been working with Surfrider Pacific Rim, and they recommend that we go ahead with the plastic campaign focusing on plastic bags and with a petition and presentation to council. Sorry, I forgot to add that before.
That's great.
Thank you.
Gail, I have a question for you. If people want to help with the estuary clean, how do they sign up?
They should sign up with Jim.
Oh, I'll start a list.
Interesting footnote to that, Topino just today became, I think, the first community to ban plastic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Believe them. That's the step they took.
well, good. Well, that's good. It's always good to have. Anyway. They should. All right, meeting adjourned. Yay.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, everybody. Yes. Yeah, if you need backup or you need backup with the credit union, call them.
Yeah, I am on order and after the month, so that gives you lots of time.
Like
Poke the bear.
Well, they got that.
I don't think they'll be as quick as that. No, okay. Sure.
Yeah, you could spell somebody off then, or you can show up to take that.
Right.
Well, I don't know how much you could talk, but apparently there's also
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I was there. Okay. You were there. So I was looking at it, like, it's funny because I saw it on the back, I told you it's
That's funny.
It's okay, so I'm looking, I can see how you're facing. When I'm on this chair, all I see is the back. So it's so weird, right? So I'm looking at your backs, but I can actually see your faces.
Oh, that's funny.
It is.
Well, good. All right.
See you Saturday.